and welcome back to Aamsuntitledpodcast. I'm Am. Hi, if you've never met me before, it's really nice to meet you. Welcome to my Percy Jackson dedicated podcast. I just wanted to start by saying I'm so sorry there wasn't another upload in 2024. I could not believe how busy I got towards the end of the year. Like, it completely threw me off guard. Like, when I think about it now, like, from the 20th of December up until like the 1st of January, it was just non-stop for me, and I was drowning in uni work. There were so many events. There was Christmas, New Year, so everything just kind of got a bit too much for me, and I didn't have time to squeeze in the podcast, and I felt so bad. So I'm so sorry about that. And also, I feel like it is the 17th of January. Like, it has been, we're almost halfway through the first month in the new year, and there hasn't been an upload. Again, it's because after I started going back to uni, like, I feel like I haven't stopped all week. And, like, the last couple of weeks have been so busy for me. And, like, this is the first opportunity I've had in the last, what, are we 3 weeks into the new year? Like, where I feel like, oh yeah, I could sit down and record something because I actually have some time and effort to put into this podcast. So I promise from next week the uploads will be weekly, and I will try my best to get there for you guys. Anyway, in today's episode, we are back to Lost Hero. I've just had to sit and refresh myself on what happened in the first 21 chapters because I'm not gonna lie, it's been a bit of a blur these last month. So I just wanted to make sure that I had an idea of what was going on. So yeah, I've just filled myself in and I've read through what happens in these chapters. There is a lot that goes on between chapters 22 to 28, which is what we're going to be talking about in this episode. So please try to stay with me. If you don't know how this works, I just basically give you a rundown of what's going on in the in the chapter, and I just give my comments on it, any book references I've noticed, any hidden threads, Easter eggs, that sort of thing. So let's get on it because I've already been talking for 2 minutes and it is not about the book. So let's do. So, chapter 22 is Piper's point of view. So, it opens up with Piper and Leo falling through the sky. Jason manages to save her and Leo, but they lose Festus along the way, and he does this by controlling the wind. They land through a roof of a warehouse, and Leo breaks Jason's fall, and Piper lands on the floor. Oh, that must have really hurt. Like, honestly, when I think about it, I'm like, oh. Jason gives her the ambrosia to make her feel better, and he sets her foot back into place. Oh my god. That sounds horrible. Like, just the idea of having to pop her foot back in his socket, just, oh, doesn't sit right with me. That makes me feel really uncomfortable. And let's just say when she did it, poor Leo took a punch in the arm, like any best friend would. Um, yeah, I couldn't do it. Like, I remember reading that chapter in the book and I was literally like cringing just thinking about it. Oh, it's awful. Leo leaves to find Festus, and Jason and Piper stay together. He asks not he she asks him about the girl in the photo, and he tells her about Thalia, his sister. Now, this is quite a big moment because up until now, apart from the audience, nobody else knows that Jason and Thalia are siblings. Like, he is another child of the big three. Like, this is a big deal. Like, Zeus not only broke his word, not once, but twice. Like, that's honestly crazy. And, you know, I always kind of hoped that Thalia would have a sibling, and obviously when I read Heroes of Olympus, I was really excited because I was like, "Oh my god, they're a brother and a sister." Two children of Zeus. Like, that's pretty amazing. Um, they hear a sound in the warehouse, and Jason says that he'll check it out. Piper calls him Sparky, and he leaves the room. Sparky is Piper's nickname for Jason. I think that comes up a few times. I try to remember that. Not as cute as Seaweed Brain, I'll be honest, but I guess everybody has their own thing. The chapter ends with Piper hearing a bang, and she goes towards it, and she sees a Cyclops, and that's where the chapter ends. Chapter 23 is back to Leo's point of view. So it opens up with Leo finding Festus because he crash landed in the toilets, and he obviously spends quite a lot of the chapter trying to fix him. And there's this big reoccurring theme whenever it's Leo's point of view that I've noticed, where Rick brings up his past a lot because it is so pivotal to who Leo is. And as he's thinking about this past, he can hear a voice speaking to him, and obviously he gets so freaked out that he throws a porta potty at the voice's face. Oh, that's gross. It's hilarious, like it's such a Leo thing to do, but it is also really gross when I think about it. And the chapter ends with him pulling out a hammer from his belt and running towards the warehouse. It's almost like he had this feeling that Jason and Piper were in danger, which I think is so cool. And I just love Leo so much. He's great. Chapter 24 is still Leo's point of view, and it opens up with Leo getting to the warehouse door, but he's traumatized by this voice. So I don't know if you guys can remember, and I can't remember exactly what episode I talked about this in, but Leo's mom died in a warehouse fire. So it's actually quite a traumatic thing for him, and this voice that's constantly speaking to him, I think deep down he's actually quite scared, but he knows that he has to do something about it because his friends are in danger. And I think that is like honestly one of the biggest signs of courage. Like Leo has already evolved so much, like right from the beginning of this book to now, he's changed so much. And like I said, like his arc is one of the best in this series, and we're going to be talking a lot about that later on. But yeah, just I remember just reading that bit and being like, you know what? He actually ran towards his fear. Like he knows fully well that this warehouse is something that makes him uncomfortable, but he still ran because he knows that somebody needs him, and I think like that is the biggest sign of strength ever. He can sense like this presence around him, and then he hears Piper calling for help, and he runs into the warehouse. He sees Jason and Piper dangling from crane arms. Oh my! I'm just like, do you know when I was picturing it? I was just like, I can't like as like I'm looking at it from Leo's point of view, and like him walking in and seeing his friends dangling from crane arms. Like that's just the most dumbfounding sight. Is the only word that I can think of right now. And he realizes that the monsters that have taken him captive are cyclopses, not the nice kind of cyclops like Tyson. I'm talking about like horrible cyclopses. Um, Piper is trying her best to charm speak the Cyclops, but it turns out that it's a lady Cyclops and she knows her trick. She must know that the children of Aphrodite have this gift, and let's just say she's quite a few steps ahead of Piper. And something tells me that this lady Cyclops is a lot worse than the normal men Cyclops is. Piper sees Leo and gasps, um, but her trick is just not working. Like she can't save her and Jason in this situation, which means that Leo, by default, is gonna have to step up. Um, so just before Leo makes his move, he prays to Hephaestus to help him out. And one of the Cyclopses notices Leo, and one of them throws a truck at him. Thank God Leo was prepared and he manages to dodge it. Talk, which is one of the Cyclops' names, hits a support girder and disintegrates, and the other gets slammed against the floor with the crane and dies. Sorry, voice is going. Yeah, so overall, these Cyclopses are not very nice. He tells the Ma Cyclops that he will destroy her with fire and that he's a son of Hephaestus, and she gets crushed by an engine. You know, I think that is the first time that Leo, please correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think that's the first time he openly says that he's a son of Hephaestus, like with pride, you could say. Like he knows that he has faith that his dad is going to help him get his friends out of the situation. Like he's already special. Not all children of Hephaestus have the ability to control fire, but he does. And I just think that that's the moment where he realizes that he's actually quite special, and I love that. Um, and also, this is a big moment because Jason and Piper have just realized that he's got this power. Up until now, he hasn't told them. And he's sort of maybe there's been clues dropped throughout, but he's not really openly told them. But it was the only way that he could save them. And I think like that little secret coming out is actually quite a big deal, but he did the right thing. I think he did the right thing anyway. Let me know what you guys think about that. I'm pretty sure that he's done the right thing. And the chapter ends with Leo noticing that the Cyclopses are reforming, and he tells Jason and Piper to run. Now, that is a big thing. And when I was taking notes for this book, I completely forgot how important that is. The fact that the Cyclopses were reforming is such a big hint that, like, these monsters, normally when you kill them, like, they take years and years to come back, really. But the fact that they're coming back pretty much straight away shows that this threat that they're facing now is way bigger than anything that they've ever faced before. Like I thought, like when I remember reading the first book, it's like what could be worse than facing Kronos' army? And now I know that actually it could get a lot worse. So yeah, remember that whole reforming thing. So sly. Like I don't know how he does it. He puts these little hints in that until later you don't realize. But now that I've read the book so many times and I know what's going on, like everything kind of makes a lot more sense to me now. And I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys to understand. Like I'm pulling these threads that people don't really notice just to make it easier for you guys to understand the context of what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's move on. I feel like I rambled a lot about that chapter, but it was a really significant chapter, and it was a chapter where Leo absolutely slayed. So I was going to talk about it because I love Leo so much. So, chapter 25 is Jason's point of view. So, it opens up with Jason having this dream that he is wrapped in chains and a woman tells him to come with her. Anybody who want to guess who that woman is? Because I knew straight away. And the fact that Jason was sort of trapped gave me like the biggest hint as to who this woman might be. And it turns out that woman is Hera, and she has called him here to show him her prison, and she tells him that Zeus has closed Olympus because he believes that the Olympians got too involved with the worldly affairs, um, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous because the only reason why the Olympians are still there is because Percy and the rest of the Half Bloods fought a war against Kronos to protect them and to make sure that they didn't get overthrown by the Titans. So I kind of think that that's a little bit of an unfair comment, but it sounds like such a Zeus thing to say as well. So I was just like, yeah, okay. But the reason why Hera is telling this is because she didn't agree with Zeus's decision. And obviously, there was a voice that called out to her, so she got lured into temptation and they trapped her and she got kidnapped by giants, basically. Oh, what a shame. What an actual shame that she got kidnapped. Like I said, like, I completely disagree. Like, I'm with Annabeth. Like, I didn't believe in saving Hera. Like, oh, I don't really like her, to be honest. So, she got kidnapped. I didn't really feel so bad, but obviously, I understand why this quest is important. I also don't understand, because she hates Zeus's children from other women, why she has such, like, why she's so nice to Jason. Like, that part never ever, like, it's something I never understood, and maybe like as we're talking about this book together, it will become like more and more obvious to me why she has a bit of like a soft spot for Jason. But yeah, whatever. Um, Hera tells Jason that there will be an exchange and that Thalia will help him. So again, like this is a big thing. Like she's talking about two demigod children that are not her offspring with Zeus. So it kind of was like really complicated for me. I remember when I was taking the notes for this, I was a bit like, why is she being so nice? Like, why is she being so nice to Jason and Thalia? Like, what does she want? But I suppose that she realizes that she's in a situation where she's vulnerable, and like, as much as she hates to admit it, like, she needs the demigods to save her. So yeah, I can understand it from that point of view as well. She tells him that he might die by her hand in Chicago. Whoa, whoa, whoa! That's really forward. That is. Do you know what? I don't even remember her saying that, but like now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, she probably did say something like that. Um, and once she tells him that, Jason wakes up from this dream, and he turns out he actually has a really nasty concussion, and Piper sort of like fills him in on what's happened between while he was asleep, basically. Um, Jason tells them about the exchange and that they think that the gods and heroes are going to have to work together to defeat the giants. So the big threat in Heroes of Olympus are these giants, is the Mother Earth, like all these monsters that can be controlled by that. And the only way that this threat is going to be dealt with is if the gods and the demigods team up. But at the minute, the gods have closed off Olympus, so the chances of the Olympians helping out are very, very slim. But like I said, there's a lot of context to it, and as we get further and further in the series, a lot more of it will make sense. And the chapter ends off with Jason seeing a horse, and he says that they should follow it, and that's where the chapter finishes off. Chapter 26 is Jason's point of view again, and it opens up with the bronze dragon following the Ventus. So the Ventus are the horses. Piper notices that there are two horses, but Jason begs to differ and claims that there's more. They see a woman and land in Grant Park. Now, this chapter was kind of weird because I felt like something had happened. Like I felt like I'd missed something, but it makes a lot more sense as the chapter goes on. So just stay with me. I know it's a little bit confusing, but just stay with me. Leo tells Festus if he hears a whistle to come back and save them. So basically, if they're in trouble, Festus will be able to dive in and save them. Piper is still in a lot of pain and they head towards the crown fountain. I mean, I don't blame her. Like, the girl literally had her foot put back into place. Like, I don't imagine that that's a pain that you get over pretty much straight away. So the fact that she's still at least limping around is a big thing. Jason suggests that they should eat and rest because he feels bad for leaving Piper, basically, which I think is a good idea. Like, we have to remember, guys, that even though they're demigods and they have godly parents, like at the end of the day, Rick is still reminding us that they're human, that they get tired, they make mistakes, and they're under a lot of pressure all the time, which is not only physically exhausting, but it's mentally exhausting as well. So I'm so happy that like Rick is constantly reminding us that at the end of the day, they are just human, even though they have this half godly side to them. Like they are still human, and that's what I love about this story, is that even though demigods are not real, we can still relate to them because we understand their inner struggle, which I just love that about Rick, and that's probably what makes him such an incredible author in my eyes. Anyway, sorry. We're on a tangent there. Let's bring it back. Jason asked her about what she wanted to say about her dad. Luckily, she's saved by Leo, who comes in with food. So I think for Piper, like her dad is still quite a touchy subject, and obviously him being threatened by cyclopses and taken away is probably such a big thing, and I don't think she's at that level right now where she feels ready to trust Jason and Leo with this. Like, it's she feels like it's not their burden to bear because it's not their dad. Like, she doesn't want to drag them into danger, which I can completely understand because Percy was like that a lot of the time, and I see quite a few similarities between Piper and Percy. um and just that willingness to protect the people that you love. And sometimes I think the way that she thinks of it is like, it's not, knowledge isn't always good. Like, it it can get you in a lot of trouble. Sometimes it's better to be oblivious, and I think that that's what Piper is trying to do. um Piper falls asleep and Jason asks Leo why he's never mentioned this power that he has. um and obviously when Leo opens up to Jason about his past, Jason sort of tells him that his mother's death wasn't his fault. Like, it, for all they know right now, it was just an accident, and Leo was just a child. Like, it wasn't his fault, and I think he's carrying a lot of this unnecessary guilt with him. He's blaming himself for the situation, even though he had nothing to do with it. At the end of the day, he was just a kid, and I think that's all Jason is trying to reassure him with, is that, look, you can't blame yourself for something that wasn't your fault. And that's such a big lesson that Rick is teaching again. It's like, I feel like a lot of us are very haunted by things that are happen like that have happened, and we feel like it's our fault. But actually, most of the time, like, it's not. Like, it's just the situation, it is just the circumstance, and that is what Rick is trying to tell you, that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders all the time. That that's it's not good for anyone, and you should have people around you that you can share that burden with. And I think that that's so important. So again, like I said, I've said this so many times on this podcast, like, there is nobody better than Rick at teaching a moral lesson like this. Like, it's just beautiful, and his writing, he says a lot of things, and it's not ever explicitly stated, but when you think about it and your mind is like in this world, you understand what he's trying to say. And I've learned so much from these books. It's actually unbelievable. And I'm so happy that now I have a platform where I can share that with people, like things that people don't notice. I'm a very overthinker, so I really read between the lines, and I'm all about just thinking about things on a much deeper psychological level. And when I read Rick's work, like, he definitely satisfies that in me, which I love. And also, this Rick drops this little hint because he puts in something about Leo wondering who the other demigods are from the Great Prophecy, and instantly I was like, Percy, Annabeth, like there's just gotta be like this big team up at some point just to satisfy fans, and I think that is what we're heading towards. You could say. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting! Like I can't wait for you guys to meet the other two demigods as well because they're just so fun. Like these seven half bloods, like we've already met, let's say Jason, Piper, Leo, Annabeth, Percy, but the other two are still a big secret, and I was itching to find out who they were. But that's a story that's not in this yet, so you guys will have to wait. I'm not spoiling it because I don't want to. I don't want to say anything right now because I know I'll get overexcited and overshare everything, and obviously that just takes the fun out of doing the podcast. So I'll talk about that when we get there. We'll cross that bridge together, guys. Don't worry. Just stay with me for the time being. Jason tells Leo to rest, so that he can take first watch. After Piper wakes up, they all go down into the tunnel. They find a set of elevator doors with an M logo. Now, already feels like something is gonna happen, like something bad is about to happen. Like it doesn't take a genius to work out that this is probably a place where there's either a god or a really powerful demigod is at work. But we'll get more into that in a second. They end up in this department store, and it looks like the inside of a kaleidoscope. Now, also, how cool is that? A room looking like a kaleidoscope. Like Rick is literally like when I read his work, like my imagination has like the best time you can possibly imagine because I'm just it just gives me so much to go off. Like I can when I close my eyes, it's like I can picture what is happening. And maybe that's just because I've got a really big imagination, or maybe because I'm a real big child. That might be one of the reasons, but I just love it. Like he's so good. Like his attention to detail is like chef's kiss perfection. Um, they find Coach Hedge trapped in a mini hurricane, and they meet a woman who is the owner of the department store. She introduces herself as the Princess of Colchis. Is that how you say it? I think that's how you say it. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. And they ask for permission to get Coach Hedge back. She tells them that she'll make them a deal and takes them shopping. And Jason knows that there's something sus going on. Well, yes, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that something is bad is about to happen, but okay. And also, that's the first time we've seen Coach Hedge in God knows how many chapters. Like, I didn't know because he kind of went missing from the first few chapters. So it was such a big moment to be like, oh my god, he's actually all right. But how did they save him in this situation? And that is basically how the chapter ends. So, chapter 27 is back to Piper's point of view, and it opens up with her feeling a little bit uneasy as well. Like, she knows that they're in danger, she just can't put a finger on how much danger they're actually in, which I think is probably the worst feeling. Like, I think the anticipation is a lot worse than seeing the threat at times because your mind sort of overthinks it and you don't know how much danger you could actually be in. So, I think Piper is very like that. The princess shows them an assortment of magical mixtures. Oh no. Oh no. This was already like it was getting bad, but then it's also getting worse. So like even the most like oblivious person to the situation actually understands that something bad is about to happen. Piper asks her if there is a potion or a vial can bring memories back. Wow, she's really desperate to help Jason get his memories back. And she asks for the price of the vial, but the princess is not having it, and she got a valid reason, but at the same time, it's not that valid of a reason. But yeah, the princess basically tells them that she was cheated by a hero. Um, Anybody worked out who she is? Because I did, and I was quite scared. But if you still haven't worked it out yet, good on you. I hope it becomes a little bit more clearer in a second. And the chapter ends with the princess knowing that Piper is a child of Aphrodite and she leads them to the Bay Area and the boys are just following close behind. Okay, so a lot goes down in chapter number 28, so just stay with me. I'll try and explain things as concisely as I can. Okay, so chapter 28 is Piper's point of view, and it opens up with Piper confronting the princess, and the princess reveals that she is a seer who knows her secret. Now, what I interpreted from that is that she knows that Piper's dad's in danger and that Piper has hidden that secret from Jason and Leo. So, in other words, it's a way for her to sort of blackmail Piper, if you know what I mean. The princess sees Jason's purple t-shirt on the rack and she oh no, sorry, not the princess. Piper sees Jason's purple t-shirt on the rack and wants them to leave. So she already knows that Piper, I mean, not Piper, she already knows that Jason is not from, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? He's not the normal type of demigod. Like, she knows that deep down. The princess reveals that the original Jason, so the Jason from Greek mythology, was her husband, and the boys are still clueless. Guys, guys, how can you not know? Like, she's literally given you like the biggest clue that you can possibly imagine, and the boys are still not picking it up. I think Piper already knows who she is. I knew who she was as soon as like I met her, and I was like, damn. I was like, wow, Rick is really a genius, isn't he? The princess leads them to a gorge where the chair Hephaestus gifted to Hera was. And Piper tries to reason with Jason, but he's still bewitched. Oh my god. Bloody hell. Let's just say this princess has an effect on all Jasons, clearly. And I also don't know if, like, he's bewitched as in, like, he's enchanted or, like, he's just in awe of her because he thinks that she's fit. Not sure about that bit. We'll come back to that. Um, they see Coach Hedge, and the princess tries to offer them a deal, but Piper wants to negotiate. In other words, basically, she's very, very clever. Piper, like even though she's a daughter of Aphrodite, and they're stereotypically all about their looks and caring what other people think and that sort of thing. Piper is really not like that. Like she has this intelligence that makes her beautiful, and I think that that's probably why she's one of the best children of Aphrodite out there. Piper reveals that the princess is Medea, or is it Medea? I don't know how you say it, but I knew who she was anyway, and that they can't trust her. In other words, she's trying to wake the boys up out of this enchantment that they're in, that look like she's not somebody who you want to mess with, believe me. And when we talk about the book, Percy Jackson and the Greek heroes, and we find out about the original Jason, there is a lot of Medea or Media, however you say her name, in that. So we'll talk a lot more about her. Maybe it's because like I read those books and then I came back to Heroes of Olympus, so like I have a lot of knowledge about the Greek heroes that are maybe not so popular. So yeah, we'll talk more about her towards then, and you'll see why actually Medea is quite dangerous. Um, Medea or Media, however you say it, reveals that she has reformed again, and she paid the victim card. So if you don't know what she did to the original Jason, I highly recommend reading Percy Jackson and the Greek Heroes and listening to Jason's story, because she is not the victim, I can tell you that. And when you read the story, you guys will back me up and be like, yeah. I was like, yeah, lady, I don't bloody think so. That is, you are not the victim in that situation, I can tell you that. Piper tries to drag the boys out of the department store, but Medea or Media, however you say her name, wants Jason and Leo to fight. And if one of them dies, she can throw them into the fountain to reform. In other words, basically, she just wants to cause an issue between Jason and Leo. This is what she does. And like I said, when you read that original Jason story with her in it, you'll understand why. Leo and Jason all of a sudden start arguing, and Piper just doesn't know what to do. In other words, Medea or Media, however you say her name, she's trying to cause friction. She knows that the trio are quite strong. So if she can cause an issue between the two boys and divide them, that will take the strength out of the trio. So she's very, very clever. She's a real emotional blackmailer and gaslighter. But yeah, we'll come up to that in a second. Media shows Piper an iris message, and it shows Jane tricking her father into thinking Piper was in danger, so he went chasing after her. In other words, so basically, Jane is if you don't know, is Piper's dad's secretary, so she works with him. And the reason why Piper's dad left work is because he thought Piper was in danger, so he went to chase after her. Media tells Jane if Piper cooperates, her father can come home. If not, he can stay where he is. And like I said, this whole emotional blackmail thing, like people will literally toy with other people's weaknesses. Like for a lot of people, like I know for me, like my father is a big weakness. So if I saw him in danger, there is nothing I wouldn't do to save him. In other words, and Piper is just basically faced with this dilemma. Like, what does she do? Does she let one of her friends die to save her dad? Does she let her dad die so that her friends can live? It is a big choice, and yeah, it's just like this whole thing. Like Rick is again trying to show us that we have to know our weaknesses and strengths before other people do, because our weaknesses can be used against us if other people can work out what they are. So yeah, like I said, Medea's a right bitch. Like honestly, when I was reading her story with the original Jason, I was like, oh my god. Um, Piper is still trying to stop the boys, and she manages to break the spell. Oh, thank God. The boys attack Medea, and she calls her dragon. The boys obviously fight the dragon off, and Piper runs directly after her. Piper throws her shield at Medea and mixes her potions together. Festus comes to save them, and Medea offers to save her dad and restore Jason's memory, but Piper refuses. That was a big thing as well. Piper refusing that offer. Like she knew fully well that if anybody could save Jason's memory, it was probably Medea, and if anyone could help her save her dad, Medea could probably do it as well. But it's about sometimes you have to make it's harder to make the right choice than it is to make the wrong one. She could have very selfishly let Medea win, but she didn't. Like she knows that this is their quest and they have to do it the right way, and this wasn't the right way. So yeah, I'm really proud of Piper. Like she's really a beauty with brains character. Like she's amazing. The last thing that ends off the chapter, and just before we come to my final thoughts and feelings, it's Piper jumping on Festus and they fly away, leaving the exploding department store behind. Let's just round this episode off because I've been talking for a very, very long time and I bet you guys are probably sick of me. So, my final thoughts and feelings is obviously Leo's big moment where he saves Jason and Piper from the Cyclopses. He is he's such a hero and like I love him. He is probably one of my favorite out of the seven and I can't wait to talk more about his journey. And his past is so sad, but what he becomes out of it is just honestly incredible. It's just proof that your past doesn't define you. The choices that you make and the people you surround yourself with are the best way to pull yourself out of it. And I think that that's amazing. And also, like I mentioned earlier, like I'm so shocked that Hera spoke so nicely to to Jason. She must be really desperate to get out of there that she's willing to befriend, you could say, one of her son's illegitimate sons. I mean, not her son, one of her husband's illegitimate sons. You know what I meant. Kudos to Rick for that department store idea. Like, honestly, that was so cool. And like the idea of it looking like a kaleidoscope is just amazing. Like, it did wonders for my imagination. Medea's cameo was actually pretty cool. She gives me the absolute creeps, and I can't wait to talk about those books with you guys because you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I kind of understand why you were a little bit scared of her initially. And the last thing I'm gonna say is that I'm so proud of Piper for managing to save the boys and stopping them from hurting each other. I think that that was pretty impressive. Right. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say in today's episode. Thank you so much for listening in. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm so sorry it's late, but I hope you guys can forgive me for that. And like, just enjoy that this is my first upload of 2025 and I'm so happy with it. So I hope you guys are too. Next episode, we'll be chatting through chapters 20 um 9 to 35. So yeah, we're getting a good chunk of the way through the book now. There's a lot more stuff still to come, so stay with me. I'm sorry for rambling and going on tangents. I just can't help myself, and I hope you guys can forgive me for that. Next episode will probably be uploaded again on next Friday because that tends to be the day that I'm off. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for listening in. I really appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Threads. That's probably where I post the most content. If I don't upload anything on my YouTube channel or my Spotify, both are at Aamsuntitledpodcast. You can find me on there. Feel free to DM me any questions. I love hearing from you guys, and I will be speaking to you guys very soon. Also, oh my god, that's one thing I forgot to mention. Guys, I went to see the Percy Jackson musical, the Lightning Thief musical in London. It was absolutely incredible. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. It is great. The singing, the production, the lights, the music. cast. They are just phenomenal. So go and check it out. Tickets are on sale now. I think they are there till the summer. So yeah, honestly, check it out. As a Percy Jackson fan, like I loved every second of it, and I hope that you guys did too. It was absolutely freezing last Saturday when I went. I went to the afternoon one, just because like I'm not very good at staying up late. So I went to the afternoon one in London and it's quite far away from my house, but I really enjoyed it and I hope if you've got the chance to go, highly recommend checking it out. You will not be disappointed. Anyway, sorry, I was gonna let you guys go now. Thank you for listening and I'll speak to you next week. Mwah! Bye!